Hey folks, Jim Thomas here, Fitness Management and Consulting, and I appreciate you being here at the channel today. And for those of you that have not yet done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We appreciate it. And then also, if you enjoy the content that we provide, hit that like button below as well. Now, our topic for you today, it's 7 reasons for gym failure. Let's get into it. Number 1, these are in no particular order, by the way, but number 1, it's inexperienced management. And if you don't have the experience, get someone to coach you up, get someone to teach you how to do this. But inexperienced management, you'll start doing things by trial and error can be very expensive. You're going to try to learn things on the fly, and I see this frequently with a lot of new clubs that start up. Is I'll get a phone call 6 months later, 12 months later, and they're about run out of money. They had plenty of funding to begin with, but because of inexperience in management, they didn't spend it in the proper way, and now they're looking for help, and they're trying to kind of dig out of something where if you go into it the proper way, you're going to have a lot better results. So inexperienced management, take a look. Is that you? Is that people around you? But you want to make sure that you have experience around you. Okay, at more than one thing, not just selling, but also, operations management, things of that nature. Number 2, not understanding the importance of cash flow. And I think everyone knows you need money, right? But understanding that there has to be a strategy for this. Don't just start taking on debt. Okay, some debt you may have to, but what we want ideally, if there is any debt that we're taking on, it's going to be debt that's producing us income. Maybe we're buying equipment. Okay, maybe it's retail, and we're going to be reselling that and bringing in revenue. But be mindful of the debt. Be mindful of maintaining cash reserves. Okay, if you get into some difficulty, we like to see you have at least 1 month's cash reserves here. Make sure that you've done what I would call a pro forma budget, and at maturity, you're hitting certain key performance indicators. But really understand that cash flow. It's the first thing when I get involved in a turnaround for an operation. The first thing we have to do is we have to stop the bleeding and make sure we're maintaining positive cash flow. We have to do it right from the beginning. And I think sometimes, particularly in newer operations, we don't always do that because we have plenty of funding, there's plenty of money there. We don't really quite have that urgency. And one of the strategies that you can maybe use here is almost like every day you're starting over. It's not like we have this big reserve. Every day we're starting over, and you manage that way. You in a manner of speaking, do more with less. But number 2, it's underestimating the importance of cash flow is the reason for gym failures. Number 3, it's no differentiation. You're going to have to be different. If you're not different from everybody else and the customer doesn't perceive you to be different, we're just dividing the pie up into more pieces, and it's not going to be enough. True differentiation, really creates that supply driven, really grows the marketplace for you. Okay. Plus, it expands it, and it commands higher price points. But make sure you determine what are you doing differently in your marketplace. Okay, it's a critical thing you have to answer. If you're doing the same thing, and even if you're not doing the same thing, if the customer perceives you as doing the same thing, that's just as much of a problem. So there could be some marketing in there too. And even for you folks that are in sales, how are you different? How do you approach that? What makes you so different, as a salesperson? Why should I do business with you? All right. Number 4, lack of focus. We've got to be drilled down on this. Okay. If you don't have, plan of actions on this, make sure you're writing a plan of action. If you need one, let me know. I'll send you one. Okay. But make sure you're writing a plan of action that you're following. Make sure there's a focus on what it is you're trying to do. Do you know what your powerful why is? Do you know what your super objective is? Why is this important to you? And how are you keeping this at top of mind? You've got to have this kind of laser focus. If you start drifting off, you're going to start, there's a complacency that can work its way in there without even realizing it sometimes, that's going to cause you, more harm than you might imagine. Okay, so you want to laser focus. And one of the things I would add here to this to help with this focus, and you can go back in some other videos and I've talked about this, is whatever it is you determine, what is your powerful why? Why is this important to you? What are these big goals? Write these down first thing every morning. Write them down last thing every evening. And at any point in the course of the day that you experience disappointment, write them down again. Don't let kind of life, don't let circumstances get you off track. Don't let it get you distracted, because there's enough noise out there to get you distracted for sure and help you lose focus. So those are some tips you can do to accomplish that. But we want to make sure that we have laser focus here. Number 5, not knowing enough about our competition. Know what your competition is doing. Okay, what are they not providing the marketplace? What is the biggest complaint that people have about your competition? What is your competitive edge against your competition? Know what they are doing. And I would even go so far in terms of the competition, I'd be marketing to them. I'd be sending emails and phone calls and writing letters to them saying, hey, now might be a good time to exit the business. I'd be happy to talk to you about acquiring your assets and honoring your members. Okay, there can be some tremendous opportunities there on that, and you never know when you might find someone that maybe for whatever reason they might need to leave the area. It's time to shut down. It could be a host of reasons for that. So make sure we understand, what's going on with our competitors. Number 6, maybe it's a declining market. Maybe the market has changed, for what you're doing. So make sure you're staying abreast of what's going on in the industry. One of the things that I would suggest, just in terms of declining market, to kind of answer that, but always be a good student. Be a student of the industry. What are the trends in the industry? What's happening in the industry? What are the trends in selling? Okay, make sure we're monitoring that and we're staying aware of it, and even follow influencers. Follow other people in the industry. Learn from them. What are they suggesting? What are they seeing? What's happening? Because you start staying ahead of this, and this can be a key element in the success of your operation. But it could also be the other side too. You don't want to find yourself selling buggy whips, right? When there's no market for it all of a sudden. And if there's not a market for something, let's make sure we're ready to pivot. And part of this too, when you start talking about the long-term success of clubs, one of the keys is we keep our club as new and fresh, not just physically, but in terms of everything else that goes on today as the day that it first opened. And so your club's always evolving. I mean, just think about clubs, depending on how long you've been in the industry, what it looked like a year ago, what it looked like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You can see some substantial changes in there. So make sure you're not in a declining market. And even sometimes in the area where you reside, that may have been a great location at one time, maybe not so much anymore. Maybe if we need to be there for a while longer, maybe our marketing needs to change a little bit, or if we're in a position to do so, maybe we can move. And then number 7, not seeking professional advice. This is one of the big killers of folks. I tell people all the time, if you want to know where you're going, ask someone who's been there. Okay? Ask someone who's been there. You want to get advice and information from folks that have been through this before. And whether it's from folks like myself who are industry consultants, whether it's from your attorneys, it's from your accountants, make sure it's someone who has walked the walk. Okay? You're not trying to trial and error this thing. Trial and error can be very expensive. You can get into some situations where we're doing some testing, and when things are going well, testing is a part of it. But be really careful of this. We're not trying to trial and error. What we're trying to do is we're trying to shorten the learning curve. We're trying to maximize profitability. And some of the things that I would look at, what you're looking for, from my standpoint, things that I look for, quite frankly, is you want that trusted partner relationship. You want that chemistry between the two people. You have that with any advisor that you have, and if they have that experience, you're a good chance you're going to have some pretty good success there. So, get professional advice. If you're negotiating your lease, get someone that knows how to review a lease and knows what to look for. That's one area I can tell you. There's a lot of mistakes made, when it comes to that. There's a lot of mistakes made on sales and marketing. People just aren't going to come in and knock the door down and want to get started. And, in terms of process, I'll kind of wrap this up on one final note here. We had a client that they opened up a beautiful club, spent a lot of money on it. and it was doing very poorly. And I asked the owner, I said, what made you decide on this method of operation? And he said, well, Jim, I wanted to be very customer friendly. And I said, great, so do I. I want to be customer friendly too. I said, the problem here is, if you're not going to be in business, you can't be very customer friendly, because he had so many processes and systems and things that he was doing that were so detrimental to the business that there was no way he was going to be able to survive unless he made a change. And so, professional advice from someone who's been there, they can help you and keep you from making, those kind of mistakes. So 7 reasons for gym failure. Take a look at them. Make sure you're not making any of them, and then maybe look at some other things that you think might be an issue for you. If you want to talk, let me know. You can hit me up with one of the links below. Happy to chat with you. For you folks that have not yet subscribed, hey, we appreciate it if you do subscribe. If you like the content, hit that link below. We appreciate that. Hope you all have a great day.